going to show you how to make your Easter wreath for hospice care. So I'm just going to talk you through what you should have in your kit. We've got you should have 10 tulips, really lovely colours, like nice and spring-like. We've got a bunch of raffia. We've got some orange string, which you're going to use to tie on the oasis. We've got some lovely little decorative bunnies and a chicken and an egg, and you'll have different colours. We've got some string, which we're going to use to put those in. We'll also need a cocktail stick for that area there. We've got some felt eggs, and we also got some woolen little pom-poms, which we're going to use, and a carrot. We've got some wires. We've just got a selected amount of wires. We've got some nice little bunch of foliage. We've got some silver and this lovely ring. So we've got all the ingredients. Now let's get going. To start, we just need to get a pot of water because we're going to soak your foam. Now we actually have supplied you with sort of biodegradable foam. It's not 100% biodegradable, but it's better than it used to be. So it's a brown colour. And what we do is we just put it on water and just going to leave that to soak on its own. Might be a good idea if you do this a few hours before you actually make the wreath, because obviously once it's got water it will drip. So if you don't want it dripping down your door, I would suggest you do it the day before and just leave it on the draining board just to slightly dry out a little bit before you use it. So while that's soaking, I'll tell you a little bit about myself. So I'm Julie Collins. I'm a director of the British Academy of Floral Art, which is a floristry school, and we're based just outside Exeter. And I'm a British master florist, and we have about 7 tutors that work with us. And we teach floristry, we do flower arranging classes, and we do professional floristry from beginners right up to British masters. And there you go, it's nearly finished now. So that's good. So just got to wait for it all to be soaked. So if you just look then, you'll notice that last little bit, the last dry bit closes over and you know it's ready. So that's totally saturated. If I'd actually plunked that down and pushed it down to soak up, what would have happened? It would have created an air block inside, so it would have been dry inside, but the outside would be wet. Now what's important to keep your tulips fresh and lasting as long as possible, in fact the mock one we did a few weeks ago did last about 4 to 5 days, but if you don't let this dry out, you can recreate and put some new flowers in. But once this has dried, you can't re-soak it, it just won't absorb the water again. So just keep it moist, just mis-spray it or tip a little bit of water on it every few days, and that'll be great. So we've got that ready, and so now we're going to prep up the ring. Let's start preparing this ring. So you'll notice that we've got a few ends sticking out. So just going to carry on finishing that ring off. Now if you didn't have one of these rings, you could use some maybe ivy trails that you strip off the leaves and get a big bunch, and you just do exactly this, you just wrap it round itself to create this ring effect. So if you wanted to make another one, that's what you need to do. And then we're just going to take some of these wool, and the important thing is, because we've got lots of colour going on at the bottom with the flowers and things, it's always important to take the eye around the design. So that's why we're going to put a little bit of this wool around the bottom here, and we're going to bind it around the wreath. So I'm just going to create a little knot there, and take this one colour, and I'm going to go along the actual contours of the ring. I'm just going to bind this finger out the way so I don't pierce my throat with a knife falling on it. And you notice, because I'm doing this, all these little loose ends that are sticking out will suddenly start to be bound in as well. So it serves 2 purposes. It's taking colour around the ring, and it's tidying up any little loose ends. You might like the loose ends sticking out, and if you do, then just keep them on. Absolutely no problem in doing that as well. But you still bring the colour around. So we've got 3 colours to use up here. We've got a red, a blue and a purple. Make it really beautiful and colourful. So just take it back to the beginning, and then find one of the ends that you used to tie it off and just tie that again. Don't worry too much about the neatness of that, because we're going to put the oasis around that later, and it'll cover up all those binding points. Just going to cut that one off, and then I'm just going to do exactly the same again with the other two colours, just making sure that they're spaced out so they're not up against that blue, but they're in their own little section. And what you'll find is that it starts to give this beautiful willow a sort of another colour. It sort of gives it like a little juxtaposition of colour. You start to see something that brings out. So this red will bring out the redness in the willow. It's quite clever. And the blue will pull out a sort of a green colour. So it really does enhance the willow ring. So what I'm going to do, apart from fight with the string and the willow, I'm going to carry on building that up, and I'm going to go and put this purple one on as well, and then I'll come back in a second. So there we go, just going to finish that off. So lovely to do this, isn't it? It's so nice to do something creative, using your hands, using the feast of colours in your eyes. It's spring on the way, it's what we need. It's a real tonic. Now, I'm going to show you something here. I'm going to come up a bit closer, just move these out of the way. This is called, we call it a doctor's knot. Now, I don't know if you're a doctor, whether you've ever heard of this before, but what you do is you go round once, and you go around twice, and then you pull, and what that does, it stops it slipping, so I can let it go now, and it won't unravel. If you just did it once, then you'd obviously get someone to put your finger on to help it, but that stops you having to use your finger. So great for shoes as well, stops them slipping. There you go, just tie that off, and then we'll just trim that, and job done. We have now got a really colourful wreath. Have a look at that. Can't you believe just a little bit of string, a little bit of wool, sorry, what difference it makes. It just sort of brings the life to, a colourful life to the lovely willow, which is beautiful in itself. Right, now let's get going. So you will need a knife actually, and a pair of scissors. We're going to put this oasis on, and then we're going to make this ring slightly off centre. In fact, there's one thing I've forgotten to say. We do need, because we're going to tie this off at the top in a minute and make a ring with the little bit of raffia, if I just put the raffia up there, it wouldn't make any sense to the eye because it's not appearing anywhere else. So I just realised I need to put some of this round. So come back in a minute when I finish that. So you can see now I've just added the green raffia. It does make a big difference, doesn't it? Just bringing that green through. It links the foliage that we're going to put in the design as well. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to just put a hanging bit at the top using the raffia. So this is all my knots here where all the wool come together. That's going to be on the side where I'm going to put the tulips over here. So my hanging point is going to go slightly there. So that's the half off centre to where the oasis is going to go. So what we can do is take the rest of your raffia and tie it into a knot at the bottom. And put that through. Just pull that tight so it's nice and secure. And then what we need to do is we need to put that under there, and we need to feed through the loops to the knot. So bring the loops to the knot, and that will bring then the knot behind the ring so you don't see it. So it looks like that. It's a bit neater. And then I can just tuck that knot in later. I'll just finish that off and tuck it in, or I can leave little strands coming down, whichever I want to do. And then the other thing I want to do is make sure in a minute we're going to be tying. So I might just slide that over later when I add in my little chickens and things, and so that they come from underneath there. But that's how we're going to do that at the moment. Right, so that gives it a nice hanging point. Let's leave it up actually. Right, we'll see. Right, the next thing I need to do is actually attach the oasis. Now this is a little bit big at the moment, so I'm just going to cut that down, and I'm going to just cut, we call it chafering actually, off the points there, just to reduce that surface area. So it means anything going in at the side doesn't sort of slice off the little bits of foam. Now you can afterwards use these bits of foam in planters. They're quite good if you've got any spare foam. There's a sort of a hydrant, so you should put it in the, mix it in with your soil, and it will keep your flowers moist longer. Right, so I'm just going to add that there, and then we've just got the orange string which we're going to use to tie it off. Oh, that's so typical, isn't it? Imagine how many knots can I manage to get in one piece of string? Out quite a bit. There we go. Oh dear. So we're just going to take that round. And now it's important that we tie this fairly tight, but be careful because you don't want to slice right through the foam, so the foam falls off. And sometimes you can actually put a little, if you've got a problem with that, then you can take a little twig. So if I cut a little bit of this willow and I just pop that underneath there, that will just stop it slicing right through the oasis. So that's a good little tip there. So we want to put it on so it feels nice and secure. It's not going to fall off because the water obviously does make it quite heavy. And then again, that doctor's knot again, tie it off there. So make sure that's secure. You might want to go around a few more times. And if you want, you can go from end to end as well. But I'm happy, and that's slightly off centre. See the difference? It's off centre. It's not going. But if you want, you can do it right at the bottom. Up to you. So now we're going to start putting in the foliage. So we've got a lovely little mixture of foliage here, and we're just going to foliage up. So we want a sort of like a crescent shape going up and down. So we've got a nice bit of variegated. Now variegated acts a little bit like a flower because it's quite predominant. So we're going to foliage up first with the dark foliage, and then we're going to work our way to using any light foliage that you might have in your little bundle. So the first placement's going up, and like with putting the wool around, mixing the colours, it is important to put whatever foliage you've got on the ends to take it through the design as well, because otherwise if you have an unusual colour here and here, it sort of separates the eye. So by bringing it in through the centre of the design, it sort of links it all up. So I'm just going to put a little bit in the centre and then it popping out the other side, so a little line of foliage, and then we've got some lovely little bits here. So I'm going to take what have I got? This, that's nice and can go up there. Take a bit of height up through. That's got a lovely curve on it, so I can use that to come round through. It's a symmetrical crescent, so it's going to go right through. So equal balance on both sides. So both ends should roughly be about the same. And just coming round now to create like a posy shape, sort of a curve, sort of an arc through the bottom there. And then just use a bit more of this foliage coming through there. Keep it nice and neat and keep it within the frame. I'm going to put some, because I've got that coming through there, I'm going to put some of those bits sticking out, coming out round. And if you've got any foliage in the garden, I've got these, take these leaves, and any big leaves that you've got, you might just want to put around the centre. This is a bit of choicier. It smells like, actually smells like lemon. Just going to put opposite. So everything we're doing, sort of putting one on each side. I'm going to put a little bit of that in the centre as well, because I haven't got any more, so I need that little sort of focal area. And then any little bits, I've got some more, put that in there. And another one on the other side, a bit darker, so it creates a nice centre. Just put a little bit more foliage in, and then we're just finishing off by putting in the variegated, just to bulk it out a little bit. So already, without putting any flowers, this smells lovely. So, just if you want to get a bit of height, You can put a few bits up if you want to make it look a bit wild, that's fine as well. If you find that it's difficult covering up the oasis, it's a good idea to try and cover up as much of that oasis as possible, but obviously leave yourself a little bit of a watering hole at the bottom maybe, so when you can take it off the door, just hang it upside down, just tip a little bit of water in. But if you need the odd ivy leaf or something just to cover up the oasis, then you can always pop out and get one. Just pop it in. There you go. One more little bit. There. I'll use that bit there. Just in there. There. So that is the design foliage up. So now here's the exciting bit. We're going to use some of these beautiful accessories and get them in. Look at these gorgeous little eggs, aren't they lovely? So what we need to do here is we probably need to make this like a needle sharp point. So I'm going to cut that very sharp with my scissors, and then we're just going to poke it in through the end. You might get a little bit of resistance because the felt sort of gets in the way. And you notice I've done that with a carrot. So what I've done is I stuck at the end of the carrot, and then I brought the wire down, make it into a bit of a hook shape. And then I've just done the same for the other little egg as well. So I'm going to get those in, and then the little pom-poms, I thought they would be quite nice in the design as well to carry a blue theme through. And but you can, if you want, you can tie them at the top. So I'll leave that up to you where you want to put those. But I'm going to show you how I'm going to attach them into the little decoration at the bottom. Also, you could put them around, totally up to you what you want to do with these. But I'm going to just put the wire through the pom-pom out the other side, and then do a little twist like that. So that you can't see it. You see it's gone into the actual pom-pom wool. Now the other thing you need to do with these, you need to put a little hook on the end. So all these, the hook on the end will stop them coming out. It gives a little bit more resistance when they're in the foam. If you think that that's too slippery, you could always push it through and do a hook, or you could put a tiny dollop of glue on the wire before you put it in, and then that would stop them coming out. But I think they're fine for now. Right, let's get going. So I'm going to put this big one on here. I'm going to just add that in to there, and then I'm going to put the little one opposite. So again, like I said before with the foliage, I'm doing everything opposite, apart from this great big carrot. It's so gorgeous. I'm just going to lie that down through the centre, like so. And then the little pom-poms, I'm going to create like a little section here, pom-pom, and I've got a little purpley pom-pom that we're just going to pop there, and that gives a nice little texture. I'll leave that through. So you can leave the wool sort of hanging down, that looks quite nice, or we can cut it off. So I'll see, I just want to maybe cut them level for a minute. Let's see how we get on with that. Right, next thing, we're going to get the tulips in. So now what's important to remember with tulips is that they carry on growing. So what we need to do is we need to stop them growing, which is a shame for the little tulip, but we need to put a little hole through the top of the stem with a wire. There you go. And that will break the growth of the tulip and also stop them bending. They are very naughty tulips. They always do what they want to do. So we're just going to put the tulip into the oasis. Just hold the oasis as you pop it in. Now, it would be a good idea at this point to maybe go back to a little bit of your sisal or any odd bits of wool that you've got, and actually tie it around its head there, because what that will do is support it, and it will just hold it to the frame so it doesn't flop away, especially if the wind's blowing it on your door. And if it does grow a little bit more, it will grow in the right direction rather than go off-piste in a direction of its own choice. So keep those bits of wool back, and then we're just going to carry on building this up. So you might find that your tulips, because they've been in transport a little bit, they'll be sucking up this water. As soon as they get some water, they'll be drinking it quite fast. So do check your oasis, daily to make sure they haven't drunk all the water in there. And you can just mix the colours up. So I've got a yellow one coming in now. And also you've got different colours in me, but it doesn't really matter. You can just have a play as you're going along. Coming up, just put the pink one up here to sort of opposite that pink one, because I've got pink ball. So just do that so it matches. Just banging around there. There, squeezing in. If you have problems finding that oasis, you can actually make a little hole and then put the tulip in. You might find that easier. Sometimes you find that the oasis is a bit resistant, especially if it's got other flowers in the place where you want to put it in. But try and get them in a good, a few centimetres, because the deeper you get, the more water they'll get. Just going to come around the corner now. One more, I think. We'll just have one more. Oh, hello. What are you doing? Out. Pop you back in. Doesn't want to be next to that tulip, it says. Right, let's put that. So I'm getting shorter now, cutting the stems a lot shorter. And that can come in there. Look, that brings in that one nicely. So what's happening, you see, is that as the stems are going in, they're pushing those wires and they're putting it out. So you just might need to readjust them. And then finally, just a few more on this side here. Again, if you feel that these don't need necessary stringing in, but this one does because it's quite high up. But if you just give it extra support where you feel it has to, and you can always come at it again the next day. Don't feel, I've actually put holes in all of these prior to me doing this, but if you can remember, just keep putting the holes in around the tulip. That would be great. And then you can just sort of recreate that curve as you're going around with the tulips coming through that other side. Just having a look at the colour placement. So I've got a red tulip there. So whatever colour you put there, you might want to put another one on the other side. There you go. If you have a bit of a problem with the tulips not staying in, you can always create a hook with a wire and just put the hook around the tulip as well, just to anchor it in, like a little hairpin. Just helps hold it in place. Just finishing off what have I got left. I've got one orange, yellow tulip, and I've got one there, so it would make sense that I put that opposite and pop it in that space there. Just a little shorter, I think. There you go. There, and that is the tulips in. I've actually just added a few of the silver birch twigs through. You have a look at that. So it just gives it, well, that does, it plays around with it a bit of space. So I just popped it into the oasis and just had a little play. There you go. Just popped it in like so. And just made it as a line going through, following it. And the odd end that was hanging out, I've just had a look here. I've just tucked it underneath a little bit of that wool just to hold it in. So it goes there. So that keeps it in place, coming up round and out the other side and under the wool. Up here as well. Notice it's up there. So there you can, if you want that in, you can pop that in, and that looks nice. It gives it a little wild feel, and it gives it like an area of space. Finally, we're going to add the little wooden decorations. You need your toothpick for this. You're just going to put the wool through. So just going to feed that through with the toothpick. And then that should hopefully just pull through nicely. And then just going to make a little knot to tie that together. You can use it, doesn't have to have a corresponding colour with your little animal. It looks nice if there's lots of different colours. Rather than you watch me do that on 3, I've actually done the others already. So I'm just going to cut the end of that. Get rid of that. And then just place them how you want them hung. So I've just moved the tie here, just out of the way. So this is how it's going to hang up here. And just think, where do I want my chicken? Where do I want my egg? And where do I want my rabbit? Maybe my rabbit can go like that. That looks quite nice, doesn't it? There you go. And then when I've decided they're the right length, just going to tie a knot in the string. Just keep them placed where I want them, and then just tie that around frame. Like so. Cut the ends. And then I'm just going to undo that a second. Pop them through there so that they hang in the middle. Push those through. Like so. And then can you remember what I did? I actually pushed that through that way. Not, we thread it through the knot bit. And then they hang out through there. So here we are, this is it finished. Isn't it gorgeous? So please do tag us in to the Academy, anything that you make, and we love to see what you've done. And it just leaves me to say, have an amazing Easter and enjoy making it.